Mind, it's time to redefine. You're the spiritual quest, leaving the rest behind. Ungovernable, breaking through the status quo. We untamable, watch our spirit elevating consciousness. Yeah, we on the rise. No system can hold us down. We're reaching new heights, breaking through the chains, breaking through the wall.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Joss is like, is everything on? Yes, it is.
Feel unprepared.
This is Ungovernable. I am Matt, and this is Jocelyn. Nailed it. Fantastic. And we are here every week, Sunday night, 7 p.m., talking about keeping your mind open. And we talk about all kinds of cool stuff: spirituality, balance, work life, mental life,
money.
We're talking money. We're talking freedom to travel.
Music.
We have an awesome guest this week, like we usually do. And that being a reminder, you need to help us out, because to get that story of our guest to as many people as possible, give us a sub, a follow, a like, a share, and definitely help us out with the algorithm, because it goes a long way towards getting that story out there. So before we get to our guest...
And you say I use too many words. You just said reset it like 3 times.
I'm like, blah, 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 right? So we have a little bit of a formality to get through here, but it's not just a formality. It's an important part of the show.
Yeah, we're sticking with Double Tap Brewery today.
Yes, yeah.
Out of Whippany.
Wait, which one did we have last week?
Did we
have?
Oh, no, we had the other one.
Yeah.
This one is La Lucha Libra.
Yeah.
From Double Tap.
No. It's
wait.
It's not Libra,
Libra,
your star sign or whatever.
No, that would be with an A.
It's Lucha Libra.
That's what I said.
Libre.
Oh.
I haven't even drank yet, folks. So yeah, does it say what type of beer it is? It's a Mexican amber lager.
Lager.
Yes.
Mexican okay. So I'm gonna.
So Double Tap Brewery, local brewery in Whippany, New Jersey, one of our favorites. So that being said, I have to intro our guest before he thinks that we're completely crazy. Steve McAllister, aka Steve McAlphabet, has long proven to be ungovernable. Currently 40 states into his goal of motorcycling to all 48 contiguous states. He'll be crossing the last 8 off of his list this summer, motorcycling music from Sarasota to Seattle. He has hitchhiked across the country, visiting a number of intentional communities, and challenged himself to live for a year without the use of money in 2010.
That is so hot.
It is. Well, we'll find out. Maybe it was a train wreck. I don't know. In 2012, he wrote his own Declaration of Independence, inspired by Thomas Jefferson's version, and declared his sovereignty as the Autonomous Nation of Stevetopia. That's an interesting.
That reminds me of like the meatball spaghetti.
Wait, what?
The
Flying Spaghetti Monster?
Spaghetti. No,
this is much more important. He is his own city-state. I love it. He writes custom pay-what-you-want poetry, performs a one-man show based on the political humor of Will Rogers, about which he produced the web series and documentary The Road to Will, and is currently releasing a new song every week as Steve McAlphabet. So, Steve,
welcome.
How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thanks so much for having me.
Have we driven you off yet? Are you worried?
No, not yet.
Thought is a little.
So I have to say that we are honored and blessed to be the first podcast that you are appearing on, which is absolutely fantastic.
So cool, yeah.
What inspired you to start on the podcast circuit?
Well, largely because, as you mentioned before, I'm making this 4th motorcycle tour this year. And the other ones I've had a love-hate relationship with social media and being online and sharing my own journey on that way. And so a lot of my trips have just been mine. And this one, though, I have a lot to say, and I want to get out there and tell people about what I'm doing or why I'm doing it, and that sort of thing. So it's just time.
I love that, because you're probably voicing what a lot of people feel, at the very least, if they don't notice it, that there's like life, and then there's like social media. And I always tell everyone, like, social media is not real life, though a lot of people think it is.
Right.
And you have to find a way to first acknowledge that, and then second, strike that balance. So but I love that you have a ton of experience to draw off of to share, because it's more so than just someone yelling into the void, right? Like,
Right.
help anyone.
And it's interesting to visit so many states, because every state has its own culture, and like some are freer than others.
Well, free-mindedness you're talking about?
Just like your freedom, your personal freedom in a state.
Well, ask the man what he thinks his
What is
favorite state is so far.
What is your favorite state so far?
Oh, my favorite state. That's really hard to say. I mean, I was born and raised in Florida, and as crazy as things are here, it's an amazing place to come back to. It's a great place to have a hometown, but the summers here are just way too hot now. Can't do it.
Yeah.
So that's why I started leaving in the summer, and I'm becoming a sunbird. So like snowbirds come down here for the winter, but I go north for the summer. So anywhere but here in the summertime is great. But as far as favorite states, they have, each has its own draws, its own positivities and some negativities. But I'm generally more of an optimist, so I see the positivities. But I look at them, which is the nicest to ride my motorcycle through. So like, Tennessee, West Virginia, those are two of the top ones immediately. South Carolina's got a lot of beautiful places to it. So, but that's a lot, the cities in South Carolina are some of my favorite. Like Charleston and Greenville are just beautiful cities and just wonderful places to spend time. So, but I don't know if I can pick just one state as my favorite.
What state has the worst potholes?
Oh, man. I'm not sure about the state, but I can tell you that the two worst cities are Tempe. Is it Tempe? No. Tucson, Arizona, and St. Louis, Missouri. The roads there are just so rough. So many potholes.
That is super interesting. I would have sworn you would have said two states that were like in the Northeast because of the freeze thaw cycle and everything like that.
Yeah. Well, in Tucson, I mean, you just get the heat of the sun.
Yeah.
It just gets so hot there. I think the roads just crack a lot, and there's just a lot of them. It's just kind of rough riding, and you notice a lot on a motorcycle because I can't look around as much when I'm on the motorcycle because I've got to focus on the roads when they're really rough and have holes and things like that. That's not where you want to hit. So when you're in a city like St. Louis, which is just freaking amazing. I love St. Louis. The buildings there, the architecture is brilliant, and I just want to look around everywhere I go. Yeah. But I got to keep my eyes on the road. So that's like, so it's like, it's rough. But it's nice when I've stayed there. I've been very fortunate that I've had stayed with people who they drove me around and showed me the city, and that's a great way to see it.
What a cool way to go around, and to meet people. I have friends who are poets who did similar stuff. They went from like state to state, and they kind of couch surfed and did things and went on the slam poetry circuit across like the colleges and that. And they had some rude awakenings, some rude awakenings in some cities, but then also other ones where they developed these amazing friendships and got to learn like the ins and outs of each city they were in.
I was gonna say I haven't driven to most states, but I've done a lot of long distance travel. A lot of times like on the same routes, like repetitively. One time I did have to pull over for gas in St. Louis, but it was like the not nice part of St. Louis. It wasn't like by like the Arch or anything. It was there was definitely some speed and rapidity to my gassing up the car and getting back on the highway.
Right.
I feel like that in the middle of the country.
Yeah. Well, wait, what state or area of the country really kind of surprised you? Like, was there one that you had kind of a preconceived notion and it just blew you away, where like you didn't really expect what you ended up finding there?
I think how beautiful West Virginia was. That was one of the surprises for me.
Oh wow. Okay.
And then a few years ago, actually going through southern Indiana is so much different than northern Indiana. You know, I've been through northern Indiana. It's just straight roads, straight forever, just through all these cornfields and everything. But southern Indiana, you know, back in the, I guess it was the 30s, where the CCCC was created by the federal government, and there were all these men who were hired to just go plant trees.
Yeah.
And so they planted all these forests, and it's just really beautiful down there. That was surprising for me.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've only visited Indiana like maybe twice. It was typically like the Indianapolis area.
Right.
Yeah, and I was told by people that were local there that, you know, you're not getting a true sense of Indiana from just hanging out in Indianapolis. Obviously, there's a lot more variation. Actually, I would liken that to New Jersey. So a lot of people, whenever they visit New Jersey,
The exits.
they don't know kind of how diverse New Jersey is. They think it's all like Bayonne or like Newark Airport, right?
That's the joke. What exit are you?
Yeah, like and all nothing but highway. Which, by the way, we have our fair share of highways.
Yeah, but there are so many beautiful farms, like lots of them.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure that'll eventually.
Yeah, we have a couple of cows left in New Jersey, but they're trying to do away with that.
Anytime I've been in New Jersey, I've never seen a single garden, not one.
Really?
No, but I haven't spent much time.
Did you eat a tomato though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And have a piece of pizza, because those are like.
It is. I gotta say there are like places within West Jersey and South Jersey where if you were to just kind of close your eyes and then like miraculously be transported them and open your eyes, you'd be like, what state am I in right now? Like you wouldn't necessarily be able to tell. But I mean Newark and Jersey City and just basically the New York City suburb is basically what northern Jersey is, you know.
Right. Sure.
One of the things that was interesting when you were reading the intro was the Declaration of Independence thing. Partly because that was the Declaration of Independence we were watching, right? We were in town.
Oh, in the center of town.
In our town in Morristown. And they have an annual reading of the Declaration of Independence. And when you hear it read live, you're like, you hear what the intention was, and then you're like, and yet all these people are like, woohoo, yeah. But when you hear it read live, you're like, okay, but we're so far from that, right? Right? Yeah. And all these people are cheering, and there's some person in costume reading it. Yeah. It's a very surreal experience. Like it was really. Did you find it surreal?
Oh yeah, 100%.
But you rewrote it. So what was that like?
Yeah, what did your centers on?
Yeah, I don't know what inspired me to do that, but it was Independence Day, July 4th that year, and I was at that state after watching the whole Iraq wars and Afghanistan and all that, and just noticing what America's like.
Yeah.
I went through paragraph by paragraph from the Declaration of Independence that Thomas Jefferson wrote, and I kind of just redrafted it in my own words about dealing with the same exact thing now. We have the same exact thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a king, in the Declaration you can talk about the King of England, but now it's still a oligarchy. We're still serving the wealthy, a very, very small community of people who really make all the decisions, basically, or at least enable themselves to be able to choose which decisions are even made. So we're still serving that same problem, And so I went through paragraph by paragraph and said, same deal is still going on. It may have changed for a little while. We may have had a step toward democracy, but we haven't reached it yet. Yeah. And there's no mention of the word democracy even in the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence or anything like that. Yeah. But we're sold that idea, and I think it'd be a good idea if we actually move toward it and let's give it an actual shot. But we only have a democratic activity every now and then. How democratic it really is, I can't really say. I don't think it's that democratic. Yeah, you know, I mean, like as you can see, right now, you have two choices. You must choose either the Democratic corporation or the Republican corporation. But either way, we are here to serve two corporations. They own our government, and that's worse than a king, I think. In some
yeah, it's
Yep. You know why that makes me think, not to cut you off, it makes me think it's worse than a king. It makes me think that's because we get to blame half the people for voting for
yeah, right.
it causes even worse. Like at least it's not just one.
It's the ultimate control mechanism, right? Because at least when we had a king, not to say that monarchy's fantastic, but at least when we had a king, you had one person to blame.
Right, you didn't get to blame half the population.
Now it's like every 4 years they're like, oh, over there, and then they're like, oh, over there. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah, there are people who think that way. You know, the king. My brother-in-law actually believes that it's better to have a king because then God can deal with him, you know, and not have to punish all the people for it or something like that. I don't know, but you know, it's we're still prone to worship those who have and give them all the power, and you know, I think we can do better. So for me, I just kind of stepped back and said, you know, I'm not really just allegiant to this. I love America for its place in history and all that it has given to us. But I'm sorry, I want more. I was promised more, and I ain't getting it. You know, and I just stepped away from that and said, you know what, I'm declaring my sovereignty. Just because I was born here doesn't mean I need to automatically be allegiant to whatever goes on, especially when they're funding, you know, endless wars and funding all this violence and the things that they do that I just don't agree with and don't want my energy going to fund. So I just made myself the Autonomous Nation of Stevetopia, and I live my little life as I have, and it's interesting. It's been an interesting journey so far.
Let me ask you, and you could answer as little or as much of this as you want. Kind of like spiritually, religiously, where do you kind of sit? Like what creates your foundation in terms of how you kind of see the world, and then, you know, how that informs your position as far as like what we've just been talking about?
Well, I was raised in a Lutheran church.
Okay.
And about in 6th grade, I started going to a Southern Baptist private school. So, you know, had chapel twice a week, Bible class every single day. So was very much in evangelical Christianity for a good part of my younger years. Even though I never felt inclined to be in evangelist myself, you know, I was more drawn toward prophet. You know, the Bible talked about different spiritual gifts. We have the gift of evangelism, or healing, and teaching, and prophecy. But in the Southern Baptist Church, they only teach evangelism. That's really all they do. You know, and then it's unfortunate there is no healing, and there is no teaching, and there is no prophesying. Anymore. It's just about sharing the story. So and so when I was when I was in my I don't know, mostly early 20s, I started really saying, you know, I love the whole Jesus thing, but man, I feel like I hate people way too much. This is way too judgmental. I'm not happy, and so I kind of just got to that point where I was like, I can't do Christianity anymore, but I still love the ideas that Jesus shared, and he's still, you know, my greatest hero, and I've seen his ideas carried out through every hero I've ever looked up to, be it Spider-Man or Luke Skywalker or whoever. And you know, that's still through there. And so I started just searching through a variety of different religions to see what different people believed, and not trying to find a religion necessarily, but I still believe that there's some kind of energy that I'll probably never be able to explain, and it gives me every single one of the breaths I've ever breathed, and makes all these cells come together cohesively and participate in this amazing life where I get all this cool stuff to do. So I'm grateful to whatever that energy is, and try to honor it with the highest vibration I can. and let that be what it is. But sometimes I'll call it God if I'm in the company that's accepting of that, or the universe, or source, or whatever. But I definitely still have a spiritual component. I just don't fit into any man-made religion.
I love that.
Not fitting in.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, it's very easy for someone to say that they're trying to find their place in the world and think that it amounts to just kind of choosing a prepackaged product off the shelf.
Right.
It's very bold and probably very, from my standpoint, very educated and intelligent to think that no one has it nailed, right? And that the truth probably lies somewhere in that collective experience of being able to kind of draw from all those different places and just figure out what kind of feels right and what makes maybe logical sense, and so I think that a lot of people, they stop at that, whatever that next product is, right? Like they were a Kellogg's person and now they're like a Procter and Gamble person or whatever, right? And they just kind of deal with what's served up to them. I really appreciate people that go out there and actively try and find, even if it's not, like you said, even if it's not to think or condescend that you could ever possibly know exactly what it is, to at least have a more rounded sense, right, of what it is or how it feels.
It makes me think of like a choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
Turn to this page.
Well,
turn to this page.
Even more so than that, it's even more so than a choose your own adventure. It's a choose your own adventure where like you go like a couple pages in, and it's like, if you want to do this, this is the ungovernable part. If you want to do this, go to page 42. If you want to choose this, go to page 75. And you're like, yeah, I don't choose either one of those. And then you go pick up another book. Like that's the choose your adventure, right? Like that's absolutely fantastic. So do you want to ask any more questions along that line before I kind of transition?
No, I think we should. I want to hear about the year without money, and then I feel like everything is going to come back together.
Okay.
I feel like it's just going to naturally come back.
So what was the inspiration behind trying to spend a year without money? Was it necessity, or was there something else that you were looking to kind of experience or explore?
A little of both. It wasn't entirely necessity, but it was, several years before I had hitchhiked cross country and visited intentional communities and stuff, and just kind of, getting a different idea of what America or what life could be beyond our Judeo-Christian capitalist consumerist idea.
Was that 2009?
That was when I did that first trip. That was 2000 actually. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, 2000.
Interesting enough,
no, it was 2001 actually.
Your trips coincide with like .com bubble bursting and like the subprime bubble bursting. So
I planned all that.
Yeah. Not that you had anything to do with it. I'm not saying that. No.
I did. Yeah, it was around 2000 and that first .com thing, and I was like, as the world got more and more into that, I was like, more and more, let's get out of that. See other ways to live beyond just, how do we continue to, consume, work, produce, consume, work, produce, consume lifestyle. So I wanted to get out and look at other ways of doing things. And then I'd come back to Sarasota eventually. And in 2010 was coming out of a almost 4-year marriage. And we were separated at that time. And I guess I, just was reevaluating, okay, what am I here to do? For that time, I was more about what are we here for and creating our relationship. And I was fortunate enough, I lived at a house, I rented a room in Sarasota, on Sarasota Bay, in this 1904 house. I was able to rent a room for like $5.75 a month, which was ridiculously cheap for here. Especially just, I'd literally lay in my bed and watch the sunset over the bay from my room. It was awesome. And so that 4 months or so, I was spending every day floating in the bay, and the water was like bath water, and just really meditating on, okay, what's next? And at the time, we're just coming out of this, what do you call it? Wasn't the recession that America was going through that time, and everything had bottomed and fallen out. and everybody was really stressed about, gosh, how are we going to make money and all that. And so I was like, yeah, I think I could just go without using money for a while and see how that works out and find other avenues of wealth, because I'm not provided for by the United States government or the Federal Reserve. I'm provided for the same thing that provides all of my breaths and the cohesion of my cells and all the other stuff that is given me in life. So my faith is in that, and that's what I believed in and still believe in. And we can use these other human organizations as we need to, but for me, just letting go of that and saying, I'm not going to deal with this for a little while. I'm just going to open myself up to see where I can serve, who needs my help, and who wants to help me out along the way. And people just resonated with that. So, I was able to, it was when Facebook worked, and I could put out there on Facebook what I was doing. People could see what I was doing and, really put myself at the mercy of my community, basically. And people rose up and said, hey, I got this for you, I got that for you. And here we go. And so it was, yeah.
I feel like I brought this movie up last week too, the Yes Man movie. I feel like that's a Yes Man moment.
Yeah.
That's like, I'm just gonna say yes. I'm done, right? I'm like, and not wanting to be part of the industry of money, just picking up and being like, yeah, I'm not just not gonna have a relationship with you right now.
Yeah.
Like, that's fucking awesome.
That was it. Yeah, I would. I'd never been really all that good at making it in the first place.
Yeah.
My mom did so much to try to teach me how to budget and all that, and I could just never, just didn't work. So it wasn't that much of a release to let go. So I wasn't good at using at all. But I've gotten better at it since then. I can say that.
So was it a lot of like? Would you consider like a lot of what you did like bartering during that time period? Where I could help you?
Yeah. Some things like there were different places I would stay where sometimes I would stay at a place and pet sit for them, so just exchange that activity, or other places there were a few places that were like under construction. And so I could stay there as long as I just provided security and a little bit of labor here and there, a few places like that. And so there was that kind of bartering thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, a lot of it really more opened up to the gift economy, and people just giving and me giving back, and it all works out. If you give to somebody else, you don't necessarily need to get something back directly from them. You can just give and meet a need, and then later on in life, if you're open to it, then you can find out where your needs get met in other ways as well. Life provides; it just does.
It's like trust the process.
Well,
that's like just trust. I love it because that to me harkens back to the spirituality piece of it.
Yeah.
Right? Like to me, that's like, how far can you trust the experiment of humanity that you're in, right? How far can you go? And I, it's so interesting. Like it just
my initial reaction, just coming from my own biased point of view, is there are a lot of people out there that sit in seats of power that would tell you that kind of thing is either one, impossible, or two, it's a complete anomaly, right? Because they want you to believe that there is just inherently a rash of selfishness that's existed amongst humanity for thousands of years, and that if anyone fell into that, either decided or out of just happenstance, like was in that scenario, that there wouldn't be enough help for that individual to be able to like
survive,
take care of themselves or live a good life or anything like that. And I think that's absolutely incredible. I love those stories. Did you find that you had like a really good social network before you started that, or did it kind of like grow over time as you went throughout that year? Like, did you have that safety net to begin with, or was it something where just once you committed to it, it seemed to kind of like feed itself almost?
Yeah, I definitely once I committed to it, it grew. Because I was coming out, like I said, I was married for 4 years, so she was my relationship, so I wasn't really out and about in the community all that much. And so that just really opened me up to who was in my community, and I talk about a lot like that time in my life, I couldn't walk down Main Street in Sarasota without hugging the neck on every block. You know, people saw me all over the place, and I was out there living in the community.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I met a lot more people. That my network grew considerably in that time, where it just wasn't really there before.
That's outstanding.
That's like that. That's like I just did a post on that, like needing to be around people in person.
Yeah.
Well,
like needing to find the community.
Just pause that 1 second. You might have lived a year without money, but it's not that you didn't have wealth.
Oh,
right? You grew wealth. It just wasn't in the form of, you know, paper currency or something else.
Absolutely.
Right. Go with your point.
I don't remember what I was saying.
You were saying you were talking about needing to be out in the community and.
Oh yeah, needing face to face, because I feel
Yeah.
like, you know, so many people when you're on like social media and stuff, so many people, there's a lot of empty promises. There's a lot of like people who come in and flit out, right? And just to be, and I've lived in the same town for how many years? 1983.
I don't want to out your age. But I'm gonna die on this podcast. No.
At least 40 years. I mean, I've lived in this community for like 40 years, and I can go into a place and meet and just see a few random people, but I can walk down the street. I have no idea who most people are. Like, there's no sense of community.
Yeah.
And I miss that.
It's become very difficult. Like we started off the program talking about, you know, the balance with social media and that kind of thing. And it's like things have become easier on the like microscopic level. Things have become much more difficult on the macroscopic level, because building relationship is not a momentary transaction, right? Like it's not a tweet, it's not a Facebook post, it's a series of interactions, and you have to build trust and, you know, set expectations and fulfill those expectations and communicate. And I feel like that is something that a lot of people probably don't even think about on a daily basis. It's just a matter of what's the most efficient way to get to the thing that I need to do right this moment. And they're sacrificing so much of that other stuff, which is actual humanity. Like there's no, wow, I'm going on a diatribe. There is no, I am not surprised that AI is not just a potential displacer of so much human interaction and human activity, because it is replacing human activity that has already been replaced for the last 20 or 30 years with automation and technology and things like that, right?
Supermarket self-checkout,
well,
which used to be my favorite place to talk to people.
This is like your one example, but yeah, like that's a good question, Steve. When you go to the grocery store, when you're not in a year where you're not
using money,
we're not in a year not using money. Don't use no double negatives. When you are using money, do you use the self-checkout, or do you go like interact with an actual human being?
Oh, I go interact with a human being.
I love that.
I mean, yeah, unless it's like, you know, really long lines, you know, and I only got a couple of items, you know, sometimes I will succumb to the self-checkout, but I really, really don't want to, you know. Yeah, I really much prefer people.
What I think is like what I picture after talking just a little bit about what we have is I picture like wind in your face, feeling like sensations on your body, talking to people, getting hugs, like totally going out, expressing yourself, doing something you love. What a fucking cool year. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, essentially that's the way we gotta live our lives, you know? I mean, we've become so, our society is so results oriented. Like you said, you can do whatever you can, you can meet whatever you need, you can, and do it as easily as you possibly can. But, you know, it's gotta be, life's gotta be about the journey as well. You know, somebody asked me last year, she's like, you know, what was your, I think it was like, what's the goal for the journey? And I was like, the journey is the goal. You know, it's that time that you spend with people, making those relationships and the conversations you have in the real world. There's an organization called Asset-Based Community Development, and I went to one of their events once, and the guy was saying, he was talking about this thing, and he said, if we're not using these to get into the same room together, we're not using them properly. And it really hit me.
Oh my God,
like,
I love that.
Yeah. You know, what's really important about humanity is other humans. And if we're not really spending time together in the real world and having actual conversations and spending time together, we're kind of missing the whole point. We're missing out on one of the greatest values that we have in the world. Where you were talking before about I didn't use money, but I still had wealth. Absolutely. We become so marginalized in our society to say that money equals wealth, but money is only in the market economy. The market economy that we are usually dealing with. Yeah, absolutely, it's very helpful there. But there's also the core economy. The neighborhoods we develop, the relationships we create, all the things we just do for each other out of just kindness and goodness and sharing the world that we have. We don't think about that a lot. We don't quantify that a lot. We got to think about the planetary economy, the environment that we live in, the weather that we have, and all the other things that take care of us in the natural world. And then, the gift economy, that which we have, which we can share with other people and share that wealth. So there's a lot of wealth that we don't really think about because we get so pigeonholed into serving the American dream that we, miss out on a lot of what real life is actually about.
Yeah. What was the hardest part during the year?
The hardest part was still, sometimes the not knowing where, what was going to happen the next day and where I was going to stay and stuff like that, but it's.
Was there ever a night where like something didn't materialize and you had to kind of, grab a park bench or something, or?
No, not really. I mean, there was a night early on where I did sleep out on the beach, 2 nights actually, but it was kind of chosen as well. I mean, if I put a little more effort in, I probably could find a place to stay, but I was just kind of open to living hard, and it was one of those things. Even when I go through like really rough times in my life, I still find a way to say, oh my God, how many people get to do this? Times I've experienced homeless, how many people get to do this and actually make it through? And, I still rejoice in the fact that I make it through all of the struggles I do.
Yeah.
So I'm in a place where I'm trying to get into a mindset recently. And so I've noticed that everywhere I go, I look at businesses and people that I'm like, wow, they're living their life, and they're enjoying it, and they're taking their, love of life and they're making it. And sometimes it's a coffee shop. Sometimes it's like an office space that I see, or sometimes it's something I see online and I'm like, you really are doing it, right? Whether you're completely successful monetarily or not, like you're taking a joy in your life and making it, right? I've told you that. I've kind of, and I kind of focus, I just let it sit on me for a minute, and I'm like, and I ponder it, my little quadrite self. And I'm like, that, and I let it sit. And you're one of the people that I would do that with, because I'm like, you're like playing music, writing songs, meeting people, going out, like traveling. And I think it's amazing. I think that's awesome.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. that was my whole point. But what is something, what is so we have kids. So for us to go, I feel like I would feel more barriers because we have kids that are involved in programs. We couldn't just pick up and leave them if they love and stuff. And then also,
I don't know. Our 7-year-old's pretty cute. I bet if we just had her ask
probably
everyone,
could.
we would get whatever we want.
With her.
Yeah.
But what would be your advice if someone wanted to try to begin to developing a trust in their life with this and try to see what it's like to begin a journey like a year without money? What would be your advice?
Well, I think anytime you give yourself the opportunity to go without something, you're able to open up to something else, And so for me saying, I'm not going to use money for this year, well, that forced me to open up to other greater wealths, And so that came through in community and all kinds of things in that way. And so, take baby steps in whatever way you want to, but let go of something that maybe isn't working for you and open up to something else to fill that space. Look what else life has to offer in some regard. That's probably the first step is what can you let go of so that you can make room for something greater.
I'll tell you, for a while, I was traveling in hostels in California. So I was over by Mount Tamalpais, and I would go from one hostel to the other for a little while when I was out there. And I met some of the coolest people. Like, and the hostels that I stayed in out there were, I mean, you had to pay for a night, but it wasn't super expensive.
Sure.
And it was like community kitchens. And so I got to try all this food I would never have had. It was all local farm stuff. And it was like all these people that were there for maybe like 2-3 days or a week. You can actually bring families to hostels, but
Yeah.
like specific ones. But it was really like we would stay up and have conversations, and we were all new to the area at certain times. So, you know, like even just maybe if you're not using money at all, doing hostels and developing a community to travel with even could be something.
What was your coolest experience? Like, what was something that happened during that year that just kind of stood out to you? Like, I know just in general you built a community, but was there like one or a couple of moments that really kind of jump out at you as something that was unique?
Well, there were quite a few, I guess. You know, but sometimes it was like when you talked before about the hardest part, not knowing. You know, there was a time where I was like, I didn't know where I was going to be staying that night, and then all of a sudden, I got a text message, and place has opened up for me. You know, little things like that where you don't, not expecting anything, but life provides something that wasn't there.
Yeah.
But I was they had a thing in Bradenton, which is north of Sarasota, called the Art Slam Festival, and I was involved in that, and in working kind of with a group to create this thing called the Labyrinth of the Unbroken Path. So it was kind of an interactive art
These cool names.
thing. Yeah. But talking before, like looking at different spiritual paths and stuff, I was just looking for the unbroken path. You know, the path that every religious tradition or even psychological tradition and other types of traditions that say, okay, here's where you're starting. And as Joseph Campbell said, the ordinary world, and you take this hero's journey to get to where, you reach the pinnacle. And every tradition has that story of their own. And so I was looking at how do those things weave together? What do they have in common? The steps that we have. And so kind of work with different artists to create different steps along this path. And that over the next few years grew into a bigger thing that I was installing at different festivals where we'd build walls out of the pallets, shipping pallets and stuff. We paint them and screw them all together. So we actually had an actual labyrinth people could walk into. And you saw these wonderful messages along the way of where, it spoke to different points in the different unbroken path we're on. So that was a really cool thing that came out from that, working with different artists to make that happen. So that was probably the biggest thing.
That is so cool. I love Joseph Campbell.
Oh yeah.
But I love art installations.
Yeah.
I love any of it. And I love when artists come together because I feel like artists in a lot of ways, like if I think of the people that have really gone out there and kind of lived their life, many of them are musicians or poets or artists because they're not as connected to the corporate world. They're not as connected, to in the same way. I mean, a lot of them are, if you look at like people who are very popular or whatever. But I know a lot of like the local musicians and stuff, they do travel from town to town. They go in like groups together to like upstate New York and then come down.
Yeah.
They just kind of live their lives. But what I was thinking was, I wonder how different it would be to be a woman to try that, because I think that would be a little bit scarier.
You think you would be worried?
I think I couldn't just go with anyone into a house.
Yeah.
I think it would be a little more. I think I would. I don't know. I mean, I think as a woman, it would be harder. Definitely with a kid, you would have to be careful. If you had a kid with you, you'd have to be careful anywere you went.
Were there any
I
situations?
got to do that anyway. I mean, if you're going to have a kid, you got to be careful with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Were there any situations where you felt unsafe?
Am I here without money? No. Now hitchhiking and stuff, there were a couple times where I was like, not unsafe necessarily, except for that one guy that pulled a knife on me. That was not great. But, but that's a long story. But not very often. But I would say, it would be. I'd have much more concern if I were female instead of a male. It's a lot easier as a male, I would say. Even as the few times that I got hit on as a male, I can imagine that would probably increase significantly if I had been a female.
Especially if you're looking for somewhere to stay, or when you don't have So that would be the one thing. So
Right.
did you not have a cell phone or anything that I guess this went that followed?
No, actually I
Or-
did. I had a cell phone. I had an iPhone at the time, but I stopped paying for it, obviously, so I didn't have service. However, I could still connect to Wi-Fi like all
That's
over
right. That's what I was
downtown.
just thinking in my
And
head. I'm like,
I
you just
had
had to go to like a Starbucks or
yeah, yeah. At the time, Google had a thing called Google Voice, and so I was able to get a phone number that I could use to text message people.
Mhm.
And when I wasn't like attached to Wi-Fi, I was like in the world again. Any attachment. It was like untethered from this. Oh my God, can you imagine? But yeah, it happened. It was a time in my life I didn't have one of these at all.
Yeah.
When I first hitchhiked cross country, and then I got a motorcycle in Reno, Nevada, and I rode up and down the coast and everything. I didn't have a cell phone at all, and I just think back and marvel, like, how did I even do that? How did I make my way? But I remember looking at maps, and I would look at the map and I would write down on a piece of paper directions I needed to go, and I would take that to my gas tank, and just really did it old school.
Wow.
But
like
I wouldn't trade that for GPS. I mean, GPS is amazing. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Google Maps tells me where to go. If I take a wrong turn, it fixes it for me. It's a heck of a lot better than pulling out a map and looking at it.
Yeah.
So that improvement has been great. But yeah, I mean,
It's a much different world for the kids now because like
Yeah.
I'm Gen X, he's Gen. I don't know what you are. I think you're Gen X.
I'm young Gen X, old millennial.
But
is the way-
I mean, we had payphones and beepers in like junior year.
Yeah.
I didn't get my first cell phone until I was in college, as pretty far, like at least a year or two in. And it's like, so I don't even, when I think of my youth, I don't even think of phones. And I often ask him, I forget where my phone is when it's like all day long. I leave it places. I don't like, for me to remember, I'm not that attached to it in that way. Though I could easily, when I turn it on, get done, like get going scrolling, right?
Yeah.
But these kids now, this is their life. Like this is something, it's like I don't really get it in the same way. So I personally love when I forget my phone. I go out, and I'm like, oh, I forgot my phone. Yay.
Yeah. That's
Unless I forgot it in the parking lot, which is not.
well. Would you have attempted this, do you think, in your younger years, had you not had even a cell phone that was, connected to Wi-Fi or
No, probably not. I mean, it happened when it happened. But I wasn't that much of an activist then as well. Like my early 20s, I was still working my way through Christianity, and I was seeing everything through that veil.
Yeah.
And so that was the main thing in my life.
Yeah.
And then trying to find my way after that was still trying to find my way after that. So,
yeah, well, funny was when you were telling your background story, like I can remember in let's see, like 3rd and 4th grade, I got in trouble. So like I went to a Baptist, it wasn't Southern Baptist, it was like more Northern Baptist, but it was still very kind of like fire and brimstone kind of upbringing. And I went to a Baptist school until I was in 4th grade. And sometime around like 2nd or 3rd grade, I believe my parents got called in because me and my one friend kept asking very difficult questions of the teacher. And it was a whole to-do because I was not willing to accept some of the answers that I got,
Yeah.
But no, I gotta say that's an absolutely incredible story. I mean, like, did you travel very much when you went cashless, or I mean, did you?
No, I mean, I didn't have cash to travel really, and I'd already hitchhiked cross country back and forth, and I was like, I'm good. I don't really ever want to do that again. Glad I did it. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody really.
Yeah.
So I mean, for the year that I wasn't using money, in like 10 years after that, I was a bicyclist for 10 years. So I went a decade without buying a single drop of gasoline. That had been a goal, but once I got to that, like, I don't know, 3 years away, I was still kind of like, then I was like, yeah, actually, I want to do that. So I kind of, didn't have any vehicle. And then after the pandemic, I was fortunate to have these wonderful checks, and bought me a motorcycle. Yeah, I was like, it's upgrade, baby.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you did something, good with it. 'Cause
Yeah.
there are a
Hey,
lot
it's
of cool
stimulated my economy, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I knew I didn't want a car. I really have no need to ever have a car again. Like you were talking before, where you've got kids, and you're not able to do a lot of things that I can do.
Hmm.
And I've always felt if you can do something, and if you're in that rare opportunity where you're able to do something somebody else isn't, well, then you should probably do that thing. That's kind of your dharma, as it would say. And so for me, because I can live without a car, great. I'll do it.
Yeah.
But other people can't. They got to drive their kids around. They got to do whatever they got to do, and that's fine for them. But I like to live within my means and live for my life. I know what it's like to own a car. I know what it's like to pay that insurance every month. I know what it's like to have to fix that damn thing, and I'm good. If I need to transport something bigger than me, then I can rent a car if I need to. But I really have no desire to own one. Motorcycle is a lot cheaper.
What's the line from Fight Club? The things that you own end up owning
End
you.
up owning you, yeah. Exactly. Yeah, and that's really, when you think about it, that's why a lot of people have to work as hard as they do, because they got to pay for all the stuff they're told they have to pay for.
So true.
And so it's a struggle. It's a challenge.
I was just thinking that families, like the families that try to do something similar, or they want to feel like they want to fuel their life energy.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are now we couldn't do it. He wants to, because
I want to do what?
He wants to get an RV, and I think that's what those families do. They get RVs and they sell their house and they go off, and the freedom that comes from. I've seen many families do
I
it.
had a line on a Bluebird bus, and it was like $5,000.
Okay.
It was still running.
No.
I would have been able to do all the woodwork on the inside.
But we have.
She wants home base. That's the
I like home base, and we have 3 kids that go from 7 to like almost 15.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we have 3 dogs, a cat, 2 rats, a rabbit, and a bearded dragon, and all that in a Bluebird bus to me is just uncomfortable. I would hate my kids. I would hate and at some point you have to take care of yourself, and I need a home base.
Yeah.
But if we ever make enough money, hell yeah, let me renovate it and I'll make it all comfy and cool. Well, I won't do the mechanical stuff, but I'll make it pretty.
I'm gonna.
And we can go.
Maybe what I should do is I should trade my way up from a paperclip to get a Bluebird.
Hell fucking yes! Start that right now.
Okay.
You're live.
Have you ever followed any of those people, Steve? Like the guys that the one dude who started it. I think he started with like a big novelty paperclip, and he ended up trading it up to like bartering all the way up to a house.
Yeah.
No, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, this is obviously going down a social media rabbit hole, but and it's since become a thing, right? Like a lot of people now
you should do that challenge.
Take that challenge, and they start with $1 or they start with something random, and then they try and barter their way, Which I'm a huge fan of barter, because I think first it was the first most freest form of people helping each other, right? Like a mutually beneficial transaction.
Sure.
And also in the present day, it's something that you don't tend to have another intermediary, right? Like there's no bank, there's no government, there's no one else kind of like interfering with the process.
You know what it is, though?
What?
It's also when you barter, it's not like your service is a certain amount of money worthy. It's like if someone needs it, and it might be like, right?
Yeah.
Like the barter is personal.
Yeah.
In a way that money takes all of that out of it.
Well, you also end up creating a relationship with the other person.
Like I maybe really need a massage.
Yeah.
Right. And you maybe really need, I don't know, something simple.
Yeah.
Or and we could switch it. But if you were to sell that simple thing, right, what I'm saying is it's personal.
Mm-hmm.
It changes and ebbs and flows in value.
Yeah.
To your community, which is super cool.
Yeah. Have you ever tried barter? Has that been something that you've done in the past?
Yeah, you said you did.
It's not one of those things that I've put a name to that much, and I don't. I'm not a big materialist in the first place. There's not a lot of stuff that I want normally, So there's nothing I want to trade for. I kind of like the stuff I've got. I don't have much of it, but I got a guitar, I got a typewriter, I got a motorcycle, and I'm good.
Yeah.
So, I don't really barter that much. It's really more gift economy stuff comes my way.
Yeah.
More people just, give me clothes or other stuff, and, I give it to other people, and more doing it that way. With bartering, the challenge is you got to find something of equal value to trade.
That's what I'm saying.
It's more of a challenge sometimes.
Well,
Yeah.
it's the perception of equality.
It's the perception.
Right?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be equal with bartering. Like I've noticed in like my mom groups and communities, if someone really needs something and you have it, or you can barter over something that's less or more, it's
Right.
like it all comes down to the value for that person. So the value of your thing shifts and changes depending on the community.
True. Yeah.
Cool.
Or your perception on how much you need something.
Or yeah.
Right?
Or how much, like if I have a free day and someone wants to barter with me something that I really need that doesn't actually cost that much money, but it would take me all day, but I would learn and enjoy it, I would do it, right? Like, and it would feel good, and I would develop a relationship, and that would be part of my bartering.
Yeah.
Like like the value ebbs and flows, and with the people that you do it with.
Yeah.
That's why I like it.
Well, after I did my year without using money, we actually we started a time bank here in Sarasota.
A what?
A time bank. Are you familiar with that?
No.
A guy named Edgar, I forget his name. He started it, I think, back in the 80s or something like that. But there's still a number of them that are working. We were starting it without money, and that's one of the challenges of starting something without money is you can't do it sometimes as effectively if you can pay for a marketing campaign and things like that. But and pay people instead of having volunteers and whatnot. But anyway, the idea is that it's kind of like an online social platform, basically, where you can go in and make a profile, and you put out, these are things that I can do, these are services that I can offer.
Mm-hmm.
And if I were able to go, like there were times that I would go help somebody with their garden or something like that, and I would maybe go help them for an hour, and for that hour they gave me a $10, and that would go onto my account. And then somebody else, maybe what they do is they paint, and I needed some help painting. So they came over and helped me out for an hour, and I gave them a $10.
Yeah.
And it was just an alternative form of currency where it's not like there's no money involved, but it's still, I value you. I thank you for what you do, and so you can use those $10 to pay for other people's times. And so it's kind of a bartering situation, but it's not just back and forth. It's more creating a community.
That's what I was just gonna say to you.
Sounds exactly like blockchain.
That's exactly what I'm finally getting it.
Yeah.
I'm finally getting it.
I've been trying to explain blockchain to her.
What is it called?
I've been trying to explain like blockchain and like
blockchain.
Yeah.
Like,
wow.
It's slow. It's been about a year and a half.
Yeah,
2 years.
She's not
I'm still getting
she's
it.
not a tech person.
But I was gonna say that.
Yeah.
So I'm getting it.
Right. There's a similarity there. I mean, that attracts the exchanges and who does what. But, it would also be one of those things where I think what I've found in a lot of communities that do use time banks is they don't always log in their time,
Yeah.
It's just something they just want to go live in the world and do what they do and be appreciated for it,
Yeah.
And not so much do I need the little electronic token as much as as just hearing someone say thank you.
Yeah.
Would you like a glass of iced tea or lemonade? And just little things like that make life more worth living.
Everyone wants to keep score nowadays.
Right. Yeah. But not everybody does, though. That's the thing. A lot of people didn't keep score. And so you have this nice infrastructure where you can do that, but still people were like, nah, I just want to do stuff. And
I feel like we're getting back to that.
Keep asking questions. I have to run upstairs real quick.
Yeah. I feel like we're getting back to, I feel like the pendulum is swinging. The pendulum's swinging, right? Okay. And it's way off on, like, everybody's so stressed out about their job. They're so stressed out about money. They're stressed out about the market. They're stressed out about, whatever we have to do, the parenting, getting the kids to school, trying to find some kind of way to de-stress and balance their nervous system, right? We're so far on a pendulum of stress and fight or flight, right? Or the opposite, the rest and digest, but way too far on the other side. We're so far on that pendulum that I do believe not in the too near future. And we talk a lot about 2027 just because it's an interesting thing about human design, but somewhere between the next few years, maybe the next 5 years or so, that pendulum is going to swing back, and people are like, I think, can have enough of that shit. Like, I think that we and I don't know, maybe it's going to be the AI revolution that does it. I don't know.
Yeah.
The transhumanism revolution that does it. I'm not sure, but like that pendulum has to swing back at some point.
Yeah.
You know, that pendulum has to come back to being in community. And even if it's a smaller local community, even if it's like your close knit friendships and, you know, your town that you live in. I love it. And I think it's awesome that you stayed in your space when you did that year of not using money, because then you were able to develop all of these deeper relationships that you can still pull from. You know, I think that's really cool. I feel like I
Thanks.
Time.
Wait, you talked the whole time? Oh my God, poor Steve.
She was talking
I
about
don't
the
even remember.
pendulum.
I was talking about the pendulum. Yeah, I was doing the swing. 2027 was mentioned. So everyone should take a shot every time we mention.
Wait, hold on. I ran upstairs and I assumed that you were going to mention 2027.
Did you stop?
The moment I left. This might be out of the blue, Steve. Do you happen to know the location, date, and specifically the time of your birth?
No, I don't know the time.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
I know the other stuff, but yeah.
If you have your birth certificate and it says it on there, I think we should run Steve's human design.
It would be interesting to fill out your human design. Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
It's one of those. I got a reprint of my birth certificate, you know, and my mom doesn't remember what time it was. And so, but I had the reprint of the birth certificate because I was hoping they would have that, and it's not on there. So I don't know.
Unfortunate. It happens.
Yeah.
It happens.
There are some people that will run like a range of charts, so they'll like be able to tell you, like, if you know kind of approximately
a sense of who you are, you'll be able to feel it.
But yeah, there's some things that change and some things that don't based off of the time. But
okay.
Yeah.
No, but I was just talking about the pendulum swinging.
Yeah, yeah.
And how it's got to swing back. I feel like it's starting. I don't know. Maybe it's just in me because I'm like, I just need to be around people. Like, I'm like, I need to be writing with women. I need to be running circles. I need, like, everything is about, like, just come talk. And maybe it's because our kids are getting older. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where it's coming from. Could be menopause.
Could be any of those.
Very menopause. But like, I'm feeling it. Are you feeling it? Are you feeling the need?
Well, yeah, no, I think that there are a lot of institutions, and you could correct me if you think I'm wrong, Steve, or maybe you have a different take on it, but there are a lot of institutions that for a long time people have put a lot of faith in them, and I think those institutions within the last few years have let them down or not lived up to what they sold everyone on, and it's left people reeling. They're searching for something new to basically build that foundation off of, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you probably had a very unique, or not necessarily unique, but you probably had a different experience to us living in. Did you live through Florida through COVID? Like, was that something that you spent the entire time down there?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Was it pretty free?
Was it pretty what?
Like, it wasn't as bad, the lockdowns down there, as it was.
No. I mean, initially there were lockdowns and such, and I had just started dating this beautiful young woman, and so I was like, we should be pandemic buddies, and so that worked out pretty well. So, the first couple months I was like, okay, fine, we'll stay in all the time. I'm fine with that. And that went pretty well, so it didn't really bother me all that much. And at that time I had already, some of the work I was doing had already been remote, and I'm kind of a loner in the first place, so it wasn't that drastic for me. But there was you had to wear the masks everywhere and all that stuff, and but eventually our governor just didn't really make that big of a deal out of it, and a lot of people loved him for that, and it was what it was. But I just early on I just decided I'm not going to let this ruin me. It's going to be a really life-changing experience and change the way that the world is. And, as you said, a lot of people really open their eyes to the fallibility of our institutions and such. And for me, I just had to, I consider myself a radical pragmatist. I stick to the root of the issues that we're at, and I always look back and say, okay, we're all making this up as we go. You know, I can get all upset like everybody else does and get outraged over this and that. But I prefer to sit back and say, you know what? I don't know what the answers are.
Yeah.
I don't know what the truth is, but I know I'm good. I know I
Yeah.
don't have to worry too much about all that other stuff. And I'm just going to keep making my way through and not freak out too much.
I
And
feel
maybe
like
through.
that time would have been a fantastic time to record and put out your Declaration of Independence. Have you ever recorded it and put it out?
I was gonna ask that. Like,
I've
have you?
not. I should record it. I may.
Let this be your yes man moment.
Yeah. I've been setting up, you know, a Substack series, my Adventures in Songwriting series. So all the songs that I'm putting out, there's a blog coming out on Substack that tells about, you know, what the lyrics of the song are, how it came about, what it means to me, and all that. But I've also looked at going back over all my old blogs and things that I've let out throughout the years and repurposing them. And then, you know, with Substack, it's cool because you can record it, like an audio recording, and have that reading along with it. So kind of having fun with that. And that may be something I'll revisit in another few months. But I've only got 19 days until I motorcycle across the country. So I can't chase every one of the ideas that pops into my head anymore.
It would be interesting to like post the Declaration of Independence and then post the one you wrote earlier and then post a new one and see how they changed.
Okay.
Are you looking at me like I'm insane?
You're giving Steve like a homework assignment. I don't know.
I'm glad to say thank you for the homework.
Like,
I'll get right on
wouldn't it be interesting to see the evolution of it?
Yeah.
Especially after going out and living without money and living through that like in flat. I think that would be
Dude, I give him credit just the initiative of taking that first step and making that observation about the fact that, I mean, like, I personally, I'm of the mindset that we need someone to, and in fact, a couple of people have tried this. Like, in fact, I just recently interviewed someone on a separate channel that I run, where Patrick down in Texas, he wrote his own Declaration of Independence.
What? That's true in like a week.
Well, no. I mean, like, he wrote his back in
Well, yeah, so did Steve.
20. I don't know when you wrote yours, Steve. He wrote
2012.
2012. Yeah, like he wrote his back. I forget when it was. It was like probably.
They should both write another one.
It might have been 2009 because like it coincided with, I think, like a lot of the financial turmoil that happened with like the great financial crisis and whatnot.
Yeah.
But so I think you've already taken that step, and that's incredible that you've made that observation, because a lot of people just, again, they live in, I wouldn't call it a fantasy world, but we call it more so a world that has, you know, somewhat of a curtain or a fog, right? Like over it.
Yeah.
And that's by design, right? Like it's intentional that some folks have a lot to gain from that, you know. And I would applaud you because you're, how should I put it? Like you're one of the bugs in the matrix, right? Like you're right. Like it just doesn't work on you. You're like someone would, you know, kind of like think that they could just kind of apply the same rubric or whatever to you, and it just doesn't take, right?
Right.
And I appreciate anyone like that. I mean, like, I would love to hear it turned into a song. Like, if you did a song where you did that, that would be absolutely fantastic.
Oh my God, that would be awesome.
Song where I did what exactly?
Yeah, if you took your Declaration of Independence
Or a
and
new
turned it into
version.
a song.
Oh my gosh, it'd be a really long song.
Yeah.
Picking out,
Long piece of
like
work.
maybe it's an album, Steve.
But
Oh my God.
I've written a song called "We the People."
Hold on. Are you familiar with Tenacious D?
Yes.
Okay, and
Why are you
their
bringing
biggest
that up?
song is Tribute, right?
Okay.
Well, so Tribute isn't the actual greatest song that's ever written.
Oh my
It's
God,
the
you could
tribute
not the actual
to
Declaration
the
of
greatest song
Independence.
ever written. Yes,
Okay.
yes. Yeah.
It's funny
It's
how our daily life always comes here.
Yeah. Well, we bring it here. That's the way it goes.
Okay. So I've got to rewrite my Declaration of Independence rewrite for Jocelyn, and I got to write a new song for Matt.
Yes.
Okay.
You can
I'll get
rewrite
that.
your
I
Declaration
didn't know
of
the
Independence.
podcast gave you homework. I didn't.
Yeah. Oh, we're good at that.
I think we're gonna have to become patrons.
And
of Steve,
then-
basically.
There you go.
Well,
Now you're
no.
talking.
Right?
Wait, Oh no, we're not even talking about that
We're
yet.
not talking about.
However, before we get there, so you are planning to finish your trip to
Last
all the
8
48
states.
contiguous states.
Yeah.
What are the 8 states that you're going to for this last leg?
I have yet to visit Mississippi,
Mhm.
Louisiana,
Well, that's one of his favorites.
Wyoming, Idaho, Oregon, Washington, Montana, and North Dakota.
Oh my God, you've saved like some of the most beautiful
Yeah.
for like last.
Yeah, and you know it's funny though, because I mean North Dakota is the only one I've never been to at all.
Yeah.
So when I get there, that'll be like the 14th state on this tour. When I get there, I will have ridden to all 48 contiguous states and been to all 49 continental states.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's kind of like a mark off both of those.
Wait,
and then I also have the Enchanted Highway on my birthday, which is going to be really cool.
Oh, that's incredible.
Wait, what? Enchanted Highway?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's Enchanted Highway. That's one of the things in North Dakota that they say you have to go see. This beautiful highway.
So when you do this tour, what is it that you'll be singing and is it your original music?
Yeah, mostly my original music. I mean, I'm in a number of cities, I'll be just busking wherever I can, but I have my little portable PA system. So I have a deck of cards that has all the songs I know how to play, basically. And so people can kind of look through those cards and, pick what they want to hear. It saves that whole time of people come up and say, hey, do you know this song by this guy? And, I mean, come on. I don't have time for every song in the world. That's on me.
We're looking at the Enchanted Highway.
Yeah, so this is the Enchanted Highway. Isn't that going to be cool?
It has random birds on it?
What? No, it's all like
crazy sculptures and different art and all kinds of weird stuff.
Oh, how long is it?
A giant.
I don't know.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
Look at the flower.
Yeah.
Wow.
That is beautiful.
And you're going to be on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Very cool.
That is beautiful. I'm envious because also the Pacific Northwest states that you're going to go to. I see
Idaho,
pictures.
and we always talk about Idaho.
Well,
Idaho's always something we talk about.
Not just Idaho,
and then
like Washington and Oregon area.
Oh, beautiful. Oh yeah, I'm going to go ahead and ride up to Vancouver as well because I'll be there.
Yeah.
So British Columbia is a beautiful area. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
So you are going up BC?
Oh yeah.
So there's are you going to hit up the hot springs that are along the coastal highway up there?
I'm not sure yet. We'll see what happens.
That should be on your.
Yeah, definitely check those out. Most people that do there's a lot of people that do the West Coast trip up through BC into Alaska. Okay. And so that's one of their stop-offs is once they get into BC, they go to the hot springs that are there.
All right.
Well, I don't know how you're going to be able to. I've never ridden a motorcycle. Matt says I should stay off things with wheels because I've lost teeth. I've dislocated my elbow. I'm not supposed to go on things with wheels. But I did ride horses recently, like in the last, I would say recently, 20 years.
Okay.
And I walked like a cowboy after riding a horse.
Wow.
3 hours. So I don't know what it's like to ride a motorcycle, but long distances motorcycle, I feel like I couldn't sit on a stool. I remember I walked in like a cowboy into the bar. I'm like, I need a drink. I sat down and I was like very ginger.
Is it like
hard?
Physically taxing to do that long of a trip?
It's more physically taxing than riding a car, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I limit my travel to like 300 miles a day or less. I'm not in any hurry to get anywhere. I set my GPS to avoid highways, and so I'm always taking the back roads and the scenic routes. And there's nothing to see on an interstate.
Yeah.
So I avoid those at all costs. Yeah.
Are you going to stop off in New Orleans?
Yes.
Of course he is. He's going to Louisiana.
If you need food recommendations.
Anywhere there is great to eat. Yeah, I love New Orleans. I haven't been in years, so I'm looking forward to that.
I went to school at Tulane, so I spent 4 years, actually 4.5 years, taking a culinary tour of New Orleans when I was supposed to be studying engineering, by the way.
Can I ask you, Steve, is making music and doing this tour the only way you're making money now, or do you have another job?
No. When I'm here in Sarasota, I'm actually a tour guide. So I'm a tour guide for the trolleys here and give like an 1.5-hour tour of Sarasota and do other tours as well. And then I'm a substitute teacher once or twice a week for the elementary school just down the street. And so, that is mostly where I get my money. And then, as you mentioned before, I do pay what you want poetry. So I have a 1959 manual typewriter that fits right in the saddlebag on my motorcycle. And I just set up there and I have a little sign that says pay what you want poetry, and someone can tell me what they want a poem about, and I can pretty much put it together in 10, 20 minutes, and they get an original poem on typewritten paper, and so usually done with a cool little thing. And so, I mean, I've made, anywhere from $1 to $100 on a single poem.
That's super.
And yeah, so
have any
pretty cool.
poetry you could recite? I want to hear a poem.
Oh, on the top of my head?
Ode to, I don't know.
Oh, goodness.
I mean, I totally put you on the spot there.
You did a little bit.
I'm in the poet field. I love poetry. And like I said, a lot of my friends are spoken word poets who have done it cross country. And
I know, I could look something up, I suppose.
Are you typically doing what, historical tours of Sarasota, or is it like architecture?
Yeah, I do. The city tour is one of them. So it's like an hour and a half. We walk, or we don't walk. We go on a trolley. The driver drives around, and I just tell stories about when different things were built and the different people who made Sarasota, the prominent people, and places you can go visit, and all kinds of stuff. So it touches on history, but it's also me just kind of telling my story as well, which is a lot of fun.
you get
And
to
so, but then I also do a sunset cabaret tour. And so that one, we go to different places where it's good to watch the sunset here. And there's a lot of trivia questions, and I do songs along the way, and we go visit a brewery. So yeah, I do a few different tours.
That's a good life. You get kids in the elementary school, you get music, you get sunsets and breweries. Stop.
It ain't bad, it ain't bad.
That's a good life.
Worked out pretty well for me so far.
Why are you? I'm not leaving.
You're like, I don't want to go to Sarasota.
I'm not a Florida fan.
She needs snow.
I can't stand heat. So you're said you were a sunbird. Is that right? Sunbird? I cannot.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
Yeah.
If I go to Florida, it would have to be like the coldest day of Florida.
Like January and February.
And I want to be wearing something on my arms and I'm not.
I mean, it does get into the 40s occasionally in Florida.
Listen, that's not much different than Jersey these days.
Well, yeah, that's true.
When you were motorcycling, here's a question. Have you noticed over the years a difference in the skies? In the clouds in the skies? Have you noticed like chemtrail stuff?
Oh my God. Okay.
Well,
I've had people point them out to me a lot, and see them, and it's another one of those things that I don't know. I don't know what the truth is about those things. There's all kinds of information on the interwebs that could make me go crazy, but I don't know.
But you're like seeing the skies all the time, and like
that's a smart man right there.
He knows how to.
I don't know. I don't want to know.
Yeah, it's like sometimes it's like they say like the sunsets that are you are the one who told me this. The most beautiful sunsets is pollution.
Oh well, no, that's definitely true.
I mean, like sometimes the things that you find such beauty in are like killing people.
Well, yeah. So in New Jersey we have beautiful sunsets, but that's because we have a lot of emissions that are coming. So like you get a lot of like pinks and purples and stuff like that, but I mean it's not really natural. Like I mean a true sunset, you're getting pretty much like red and orange and yellow, right?
Yeah.
We get these very kind of strange, like pink,
fluorescent,
purple, blue,
pink, purple.
Yeah, sometimes.
Where was the best sunrise or sunset you saw?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Best sunsets are still in Sarasota.
Okay.
I've not seen any better anywhere else. We got great sunsets here. The best sunrise was in Cocoa Beach. This last year on my trip out, I stayed for 3 nights at Cocoa Beach, and I was like 2 blocks from the beach. Mm-hmm. And although normally my alarm clock just automatically wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning, I just get up and I'm ready to go with the sun. But when I was there, life was just waking me up at 6 o'clock. And so I got up and I went out there and I watched the sunrise every morning, and it was just spectacular. Yeah, really nice watching over the water.
I feel like I want like I can't see us in Steve's life because we have the family and the stuff and the
But you
house and
want to
all this stuff.
be in Steve's life.
But no, but you should take a paperclip
Yeah.
and turn it into an RV. How long should he have? I don't know. You should
You
have the
should.
spirit to turn a paperclip into an RV, so that and we can go and then when we're done, we can sell it, and you've made more than the paperclip. So I mean, like it works out in the end, right? Like it's actually like whatever money we put in, we get back.
Wait, you want to sell it at the end? No, that's not the way this is.
Well, I'm just saying I want to be free like that. But the world of parenting is a little different. Like I find freedom, like I find your sense of love of life watching like the kids play at a playground.
Yeah.
Or like getting out there and being off the screens and like so I get that. But I'll tell you what, as a mom of kids and your kids make friends and then you are friends with the moms, this isn't across the board. Like today we had a friend over I really love. Like my daughter had a friend over and I love. But it's like I feel often that I'm forced into relationships with people that I don't necessarily want to be with. And because so it's not free like that.
Mm.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, no, you have to make sacrifices, obviously, but
yeah. So it's like me, but then also maybe one day when the kids are older.
Yeah.
But then
did you meet Steve in your travels? Did you meet people? Well, obviously the dude who pulled the knife on you. I'm pretty sure you're not like pen pals anymore.
No.
But
well, you should ask him if he's all for gun control.
Well, no, hold on. I don't even want to go down that road. But I want to ask you, like, did you meet people where you're just like they offer you something and it was like, thank you very much, I appreciate it, but like, I don't want to continue a relationship after this or anything. Like, I mean, was there anything that was ever kind of off-putting, or you just had a personality conflict or like something like that along the road?
No, I've been pretty fortunate. I've been pretty fortunate that I haven't had that. You know, when I'm traveling, I mean, the last few years, especially, I've started connecting with people through couchsurfing.com. And it's another social platform where you got people who want to travel and people who want to just be hosts. And, you know, people like me who actually have been both. So I've hosted a dozen or so people at my place while I've been here. And then when I go to other people's places, they host me. And it's really a wonderfully beneficial thing. Not only, you know, you get a free place to stay, but you get to stay with someone who, you know, knows the community, knows the area. And so generally they're friendly, affable people who are good to have conversation with. And, you know, it's one thing to go to a city and, you know, wherever you go pay a hotel or whatever.
Yeah.
And, you know, for me, it's like, okay, I just rented a box. Now I get to stay in this box in the city where I don't really know very well. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. I don't know anybody. And it's just not a way to visit somebody, travel for me.
Yeah.
Where staying with a couch surfer, though, you know, I'll stay with them for 2 nights, and they'll give me at least, you know, direction on where to go, things I got to see, things to watch out for. And, you know, sometimes, you know, they'll give me somebody to hang out with, and we'll actually go, you know, create a relationship and have some experiences together. So it's much more fulfilling way to travel for me that way. And fortunately, I haven't found people that I really had to tell I didn't want to have a relationship with you anymore. But, you know, I don't plan to go back for a few of them.
Yeah.
You know, but
that was great.
It was just, yeah. It's just like, okay, I'm glad we had this experience and that I never have to do it again.
Yeah.
You know?
So what I feel listening is I want aspects of your life. Like I want the community. I want like the performing piece. Like I love listening to you talk about performing in different states, right? Putting your message out, your music, your joy, and like the idea of seeing all these landscapes, right? To me, that's spiritual and beautiful, right? And so I love that. But I need it on vacation. So there we go.
Well, I do have a poem for you. I looked one up. A few years ago, I wrote a song called Breathe. Because we down here, we do have a thing called red tide that hits every now and then. And it's an algae bloom that's natural, but it really feeds on all the nitrates and phosphates that we throw into the water.
Yeah.
So it makes it really hard to breathe. You got to cough a lot and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, I was doing a show I called the Cowboy Cabaret where a lot of the songs that I do, I have a little poem that introduces them. So this is the poem that introduces them.
Yay! Yay!
That's where I'm going with all this.
Yeah.
In the society we are creating, we're under quite a bit of pressure to meet the demands of others and make sure that we measure up to all that is expected to be a good consumer. And though we're often pushed to our limits, we try to do it with good humor. But it seems that all our consumption just serves to keep us busy, and the speed in which we create pollution and trash can make us rather dizzy. I know that I'm supposed to step in line so the masters can be appeased, but I don't see the point of this mayhem. I just want to breathe.
I love it.
You like it?
I love it. That's great.
Hey.
That's so good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of my poems are little short ones like that. You know, just some of them to introduce the songs, and some of them are really long. But you know, depends on what is called for at any given thing.
Yeah.
So you do the poetry, pay what you can for poetry, right?
Pay what you want.
Pay what
Yeah.
you want for poetry.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
Off of your typewriter, which is
Yeah.
even. And you're going around singing. Where was, just really quick question, where was your best audience? What state was your best audience?
Honestly, well, I haven't really done much performing that much, but this last year, I did the first thing of what I'm trying to grow into is Steve McAlphabet's Wandering Soul Roadshow. So I'd love to perform with other artists and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But the initial test of that was in Clifton Forge, Virginia, and I'd gone through there the year before and talked to the people about doing my Will Rogers show there. So for that particular event, it was like a Saturday afternoon matinee kind of thing, but had a good 100 people or so there. And I did a short little version of my Cowboy Cabaret show. Then I showed the documentary I created about my Will Rogers journey in 2022. And then I did my Will Rogers show after that, all based on things he said 100 years ago that I think people need to remember.
We have not talked about your Will Rogers.
No, we got to talk about Will Rogers. I know you guys mentioned 1927. 1928 was a big year for Will Rogers. I mean, most people don't remember who he was, which is why I did the documentary and putting it out as a series now, because I think people need to remember who he was. But 100 years ago, he was the biggest celebrity of his time. I mean, stage, screen, radio, print. Everybody loved Will Rogers, and he loved everybody else, you know, and never met a man he didn't like. In 1928, he was the only person in history to be invited to speak at both the Democratic and Republican conventions. No one has ever done that except for him. That same year, Life magazine, which was a humor magazine then, and they started the anti-bunk party to get the bunk out of politics. And they nominated him to be their candidate.
They were very successful, by the way.
Yeah, so not only did he speak at both those conventions, but he also was their candidate.
Yeah.
And of course, when he didn't win, he said the anti-bunk party is just 100 years ahead of times.
Yeah.
So 100 years later is 2028, and that's coming up. So I needed to take a break off of Will this year. So I will be showing the film at the Will Rogers Memorial Museum on June 20th. But I just didn't, you know, right now it's just the climate's not right to get out there and start talking politics anymore than people are talking about it. But
I don't know. I think more people need to talk it.
Maybe they do. But I also grew a beard this year, and I just wanted to take. I just needed to focus on one thing. I just want to do music, and then squeeze in poetry. But trying to do all that stuff that I do at the same time, it's really hard. So this year is just about music, basically. But then, you know, building toward 2028. Then I'm going to be really pushing Will a lot more and getting people to really say, okay, y'all, it's been 100 years. We've been the butt of this joke. You know, the Republican and Democratic Party is a joke being played on us. We need to get over it.
I was going to say, interestingly enough, if Will Rogers were still alive, it's entirely possible that he would not be the oldest person in this presidential race this year, which is, you know, absolutely fantastic from that perspective. I love Will Rogers' like tongue-in-cheek kind of, you know, ways of. I mean, it's reminiscent of, or actually, I mean, Will Rogers might even kind of been one of the front runners in this, like in terms of these political critiques that were done with. You know, tongue-in-cheek kind of sarcasm, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You know, what am I looking
You're
at here?
looking at a quote from Will Rogers.
The money was all appropriated for the top in the hopes that it would trickle down to the needy.
Mhm.
Mr. Ooh, this is a good one. Mr. Hoover didn't know that money trickled up. Give it to the people at the bottom, and the people at the top will have it before night, anyhow. But it will at least have passed through the poor fellow's hands.
Yeah.
I-
Yeah, when you think about it, he's like, promoting universal basic income right there.
Yeah,
Give money to people about it, it's going to work its way back up again.
yeah. He.
You know?
I love the tongue-in-cheek way that he was able to kind of like whimsically critique, right, like the state of things.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And how then, and maybe it was just the way he did it, but the people he was making fun of, they could laugh along with it. And they could laugh at the joke. And it wasn't that biting where they felt like, angry at him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Whereas I don't know if today people could do that. People
Look, read it out loud.
Oh,
He's reading.
All right, hold on. Well, wait, you
Are
don't
you
want me to read this out
Not
loud?
you're gonna read it out loud.
Are we going to get
But
canceled on
live.
YouTube?
No, you're gonna read it live.
Okay, all right. This is also a Will Rogers quote.
Uh-huh.
There are three kinds of men. The one that learns by reading, the few who learn by observation. The rest of them have to pee on the electric fence for themselves.
Yeah, he's got a lot of good ones in there.
I'm worried I know which one of those three categories I fall into.
Sorry. I've always loved Will Rogers, and I've always used quotes of his in different classes that I've used with kids.
Oh, cool.
And so I love it.
Good.
And so, can people find the documentary anywhere? Is it like online anywhere?
Yeah, it's on YouTube on the Steve McAllister channel on YouTube. So we look for The Road to Will, and it's I think the 9th part is going to be coming out tomorrow, I believe. 9th part. It's a 12-part series, and so each episode has its own little story.
Yeah, I think.
You says The Road to Will?
The Road to Will, yes. For Steve McAllister.
I'm looking, and it's like the algorithm. The word. Oh, here we go. Okay,
yeah.
All right.
I feel like we're gonna be watching.
I'm gonna
this
post
tomorrow.
the trailer.
Yeah, please do.
And actually, I have to subscribe because that's just like a requirement.
Gotcha.
I feel like we're gonna be watching this tomorrow.
I hope so.
The trailer. Okay.
Yeah, it's got some good stuff in there.
So I'm
Feel free to
throwing
put comments in and share it with whoever you like.
I'm throwing into the comments the link to the trailer so that everyone can get to your YouTube channel. So that's absolutely fantastic. All right.
Awesome.
We've kept Steve on for an hour and a half. So,
oh my gosh.
Do you have any final questions?
No, I just feel my heart is warmed by your journey, and I know a lot of artists, and you strike me as one of my friends who's an artist who travels with their guitar and who it doesn't have a huge fancy life, but they have awesome friends. Like, I think of my friends, right? You think of my friends, like who play out and fucking love it. And you look at them, and they don't have necessarily families. None of them really have families. It's a little different when you have a family.
I wouldn't say that.
Well, families of their own.
The families that they have aren't necessarily
right. They're
the
not
traditional
kids.
Nuclear family, right?
Yeah,
but
they have families of musicians.
I mean, and in many cases, they have very large families.
Yeah, yeah. I just mean it like kids.
Yeah,
they have to stay. So they and I love them all, and there's a part of me that craves that, and so it really warms my heart to see people doing it. And if I could just pick a piece of that, right? Like maybe I'll be inspired to go out and read poetry sometime next week.
Yeah,
or not next week, next month. Week. I don't even know what's next week. I don't even know what month it is. But next month, I feel like there's such a beautiful, like when you are in the artistic fields, when you're writing poetry, when you're creating music, that's what speaks to people. And you have this awesome message behind it. You're like, fuck the Republican corporation. I remembered that. And the Democrat corporation. I'm going to use that from now on. Like, that's what it is, And
they're corporations. They're business entities.
Yes.
They may be nonprofit organizations, but it's a corporation.
Yes. And like for you to speak to that and talk about freedom and go ride a fucking motorcycle across all the fucking states, like That's awesome. And it warms my heart to know that people like you're out there. And I'm going to be watching the Will Rogers thing tomorrow.
You know what the only difference is, Steve, between a for-profit and a non-profit organization? A non-profit organization knows how to inflate its expenses.
Yeah.
All right. So is that your last question? No, I am totally enthralled and pleased, and I loved every single moment of this.
I feel like now it's even more important that we get in person.
And a Bluebird bus.
From a paperclip. That's how it's gonna work.
Well, y'all enjoy your bus. I'll let you know when I'm coming through Jersey.
Yo, no,
wait, we didn't ask you.
We will buy you a beer.
We didn't ask him. We did not ask him his impression of New Jersey.
Oh,
or New Jersey folks.
Yeah. Watch out now.
I'm only. Overall, I like Jersey. I got it's one of the 2 states I've been arrested in. So that was it. But that was back in 2001, and I think that the statute of limitations had passed on that one. Yeah.
What were you?
Yeah, it was actually interesting. It was actually September 9th, 2001. I was out. Yeah, I got arrested for having a possession of a green-brown substance that could have been marijuana. It actually was, but he took me in for that. He let me go that night, no big deal. But then, and 2 days later, the next day, I rode through New York City, and it was really foggy. I couldn't see the Twin Towers, and woke up in Connecticut the next morning, and bummed. Yeah.
You were up here during a time.
So my little problem wasn't that big a deal after that,
Yeah.
And but I have enjoyed New Jersey. I haven't stayed there with anyone yet, though. I just kind of rode through last time. But nobody shot at me, so I was all right.
Yeah.
Well, you were here at a time. So Jersey had a really interesting moment after 9/11.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Many people were like my uncle. My uncle was killed in the first tower. Like many people were involved in it. There were many people from New Jersey.
Yeah.
And there was a coming together for about how long?
About a week.
No, it was longer than that. I would say.
Well, hold on. I have a different take on it than you. But so you finish your
I feel like there was a vibe, and I was in Massachusetts. I came back for a little while just to be here. So I in Massachusetts had that too, because Logan Airport was a big thing in the whole.
That's where all the planes came from.
So I was in Massachusetts in college. My dad worked in the city. All my friends were in the city because I went to school in the city before that. And so I was, it was everybody was in a moment. And then I feel like for about a month. Maybe even more. People fucking cared. It was a weird moment.
Yeah, no,
people cared.
You would go into New York City and you would be used to people cutting you off and you're like, hey, fuck you, buddy.
It was different.
It wasn't like that for a month. It was really nice. People were like, oh, excuse me, sorry.
I mean, it lasted longer than that, but I'm saying for a good month.
Yeah.
There was a collective moment. And not one that was often experienced. I mean, although I will say, living in Jersey, having lived in Massachusetts, which I love, but also in California, the friendships. There's no friendships like New Jersey friendships when you nail them in. Like when you get it right, a Jersey friendship is really good.
Yeah,
but it's hard to get right.
Yeah. To quote Jocelyn. Very difficult to be friends with someone from New Jersey.
You get it right. They're a friend for life.
Yeah.
When you get it right, you got to get it right.
Yeah, but God forbid you get on their bad side.
Fuck. Then you're like, what did I do?
Yeah.
Okay, so we know you only try. Well, I think maybe you have to come and stay in Jersey. You can come stay with us.
Yes. Yeah.
Of course, we do have. We say this every episode. 3 dogs.
It won't be this year, but it'll be around. But in the meantime, if you want to follow me, my website, stevemc.xyz, or Steve McAlphabet, in the platform you want to, you can find me there.
Steve MCXYZ?
stevemc.xyz.
Oh, stevemc.xyz. What a fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it rhymes. I'm a poet.
Well, I'm going to be watching the Will Rogers tomorrow.
I'm glad.
I want
I
to
hope
see it.
everybody
I hope
does.
other people watch it with me. And
Yeah.
I'll post it on my stuff too.
During the week, should
Great.
we do like a live
A
like,
watch party?
watch party kind of
Maybe.
like
That'd be
Mystery
fun.
Science 3000?
We could.
Yeah.
Middle of the week?
Yeah.
Yeah, we should watch a little bit so we get a sense of it. And then, or should we
Okay.
know? I don't know. We'll do it. Yeah, we'll do it.
All right.
We'll do it.
Awesome.
And then check out your tour if
Yeah.
you're out on the West Coast.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm connected to you on Facebook.
And
so
what's your Substack?
I'm gonna watch you go through this.
Also, Steve McAlphabet.
Steve McAlphabet, because I'm on Substack. He's on Substack.
Steve
Check out
McAlphabet.substack.com, right?
Yeah, because that you said there is where you put your music.
Among other places, yeah.
writing-
My music is everywhere, anywhere you want. You can find it on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, wherever
Oh,
you
you
find
said-
music.
That's the one that you
there.
said you talk about how you came about the lyrics.
Yeah, Substack is where I do the Adventures in Songwriting series.
That's where I'm going to look for your Declaration of Independence.
I'll put it there eventually. I'll get it there.
Oh my god.
I'm such an
Cool.
Giving the guests homework.
I love it because you know what? Let me tell you, there was a bunch of people from this town listening to the Declaration of Independence. Ooh, and I'm
Yeah.
like, that hasn't happened.
You'd be like, look, go
That
listen,
hasn't
go
happened.
listen to Steve's Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, I gotta put them somewhere.
Yeah.
Gotta put
There you
them-
go.
Look, I want to say thank you. I appreciate it, Steve.
Sure.
I know you're dedicated some time here. this
Yeah,
evening.
sorry.
That's okay. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
If we can do anything in the future to help publicize the, your
Sure.
your future
If you
tour and
come through
exploits
New
and stuff, let us
Jersey,
know.
let us
Let you
get-
know.
we could probably maybe get him at one of the bars around here.
Well, there you go.
Definitely. Yeah, yeah. So
Cool.
all right. We will be in touch. For everyone else who made it to the end of the program, thank you very much. Help us out, do all the good things with the subscribing
is
and the
this
thumbs up and
thumbs
everything
up?
like
Oh,
that.
that's
Yeah, it's
like
the thumbs up,
thumbs
right?
up.
Yeah, you gotta do thumbs up. Hey. Not giving everyone like the double guns or anything, like yeah. YouTube will get mad at me if I do that.
What's that?
Yeah, no, anyway.
I'm so far out there.
Everyone have an absolutely fantastic evening. We will see you back here Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern next week. And with that,
And you're
anything
gonna
else?
have to post the documentary on the post notes, the notes, whatever.
Yeah.
And the
Thank you
Substack.
for having me.
And the Substack.
Thank you, Steve. Have a good night.
You bet.
Thank you.
Peace, everyone.
Shackle your mind, it's time to redefine. You're the spiritual quest, leaving the rest behind. Ungovernable, breaking through the status quo. We untamable, watch our spirit elevating consciousness. Yeah, we on the